Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Webb. I'm from Central ITS, specifically Online Learning Services. In Online Learning Services, there are 6 of us that work with faculty, students, and staff on campus, integrating a lot of our enterprise systems into teaching. So one of the ones that we take care of course, is Blackboard. We also handled Zoom, Kaltura, PlayPosit, and a couple others such as Expressions and whatnot. But today what I'm going to dive into is just kind of some basics of navigating Blackboard, and hopefully some of the things I show you help kind of get you up and running with utilizing Blackboard in your classes or for facilitation. At any point, if you have any questions, by all means, please stop me. There's only a couple people in here. If you're watching this recording later, by all means, feel free to email me. I will put my email in the chat. And as always, you can email us at help@syr.edu. But if you want to reach out to me directly with a question on something I talked about today, by all means, you can email me at jmweb02@syr.edu. And I usually get back to people within 12 to 24 hours. So unless it's the weekend, so 24 hours. But with that being said, I'm going to jump right into sharing my screen. We're going to talk about a couple different things. I did have an agenda, but like I said, at any moment, if there's something you want me to talk about, I'd be more than happy to shift gears and jump into that. I'm going to cover the Ultra navigation that you saw pop up this year. That's a new thing. We're going to jump into the classes and talk about how to structure your class, talk about design and some of the cool features within the class shells themselves, and give you a little bit behind the scenes as to what the class shell does. And then what I can also do is I'm going to show you a very cool preview of something that we're working on to release in the fall. You will be one of the first groups to be able to see some of the new features that we're integrating and being able to incorporate into Blackboard. So we actually have a new course shell that we're going to showcase that's part of our new upgrades. So you guys get to get a preview of that too. Very cool. Probably should have put that in the explanation. Maybe we would have had more people join us, but if you're watching this recording, you get a preview too. So by all means, let's jump right into share. Again, at any point, I'll monitor the chat. Sean will help me out with taking a look at things, and don't be afraid to turn on your mic and interrupt me. I don't take it personally. And away we go. So you get to see my chaos. That is my desktop. Let's jump right into Blackboard. I'm going to talk about my Blackboard and Me class in a second, but let's jump back. You get to see some of the behind the scenes stuff happening here and look right at our navigation page. So in navigation, you've probably seen some of the new features that have been popping up and new looks to the way Blackboard is laid out. We've had a bunch of questions asking us to go back to the old way, but I'm hoping that you have gotten past that and have enjoyed some of the new features here with the Ultra navigation. If anything, there are some really cool things that we've been able to integrate into the navigation that have made things a little bit more streamlined and a little bit easier to find. The institution page is where you want to start and usually where you come in. If there is any questions that you have, hopefully we have them on the institution page for you as an update. Some of these things we have set hidden that you're not going to see. It's going to look a little bit different for you, but we do have a lot of resources here to help you out with any questions you may have, such as if you have questions about Zoom, Kaltura, PlayPosit, Collaborate Ultra, Turn It In. All of these link you out to resources on the web using our answers page to help you go through some tutorials to help you get up and running. Again, if you get stuck, don't be afraid to email us at help@syr.edu. But just so you know, the institution page is where a lot of our communication enterprise-wise and university-wise comes through. So as you can see, we have a bunch of announcements on there and links to a lot of resources here for you. So hopefully you utilize that to be able to find more information. Going down the line, you can go into your profile and you can edit some of your profile information. You can change your education level. You can add a website. So if somebody looks you up on Blackboard, you have that information right there and ready for them. You can go in and check your mailing address, all that fun stuff in here. And then you can also change your notifications, what I'm going to talk about very shortly. One of the things Blackboard Ultra Navigation does a very good job of is giving you as the instructor a lot of ways of communicating with your students. Your students can come in and change those communications, but hopefully if they don't, they're going to have multiple ways and resources to be able to see notifications from you in your class. With that being said, you can go to the activity stream and you can see any announcements and any information that is pushed out to the students will pop out here. You can see conversations that are happening. You can track your students' usage. You can track when new content is uploaded, and students can see all of this as part of their classes. The only thing you won't see is to create. As an admin, I can create an announcement and send it out to everybody on campus, but we like to actually use the institution page for any announcements or downtime that may be occurring. But the activity stream is another resource that students should be checking to see when there are updates to their classes, or if there's any events or projects or assignments coming up, and I'll talk about that too. I'm going to skip over courses and go down to organizations very quickly. And you can see this is where a lot of students can join in for organizations and be able to see the organizations that they're part of. The one thing you can't do from this is you can't actually log into an organization. What you need to do to be able to find an organization is if you go to the institution page, back here in the institution page, you can find organizations and Blackboards, and you can go in and look for organizations and self-enroll in one. What this will do is open up a page for you to self-enroll and find organizations that you can join. Very similar to before, just has a different link to it and a different location to it. But that's how I, as a student or as a faculty member, can join other organizations. Once I'm joined into them, this is where I can quickly reference them. The calendar is a great feature that's been added. This helps students be able to take a daily look at their calendar and monthly look at their calendar for any assignments that they may have. I'm not enrolled in any classes right now, so I'm not going to see any assignments popping up. But in previous months, you could see events and things that have popped up depending on the organizations I've been a part of or any assignments I've tied due dates to for my class, which is kind of neat. This is a great way. Again, if you tie a due date to an assignment or to a test or anything coming up, this is a great way for students to get an overview of stuff that is happening in their Blackboard courses. Messages is a neat feature where you can actually send messages within Blackboard. It does not go to their email, but it sends within. When we switched over to Ultra Navigation, and a lot of people probably saw like 20 to 30 messages pop up here from previous courses where people used the messaging function and people really didn't know how to find it. Now it's right on the front layer and you can find the messages from previous courses in here. A lot of the students enjoy the grades function, being able to look in and see a quick overview of all their grades for everything that they're tied into and seeing any work or assignments that still need to be graded. For you as a professor, you can go in and look and see any assignments that need to be graded. I need to go and update some of my information here and go and update some of the classes that I'm teaching. This is a great overview for students and professors to be able to see where everything is at and how everybody is doing in the classes. Now, tools is a great resource too, to be able to quick access our main enterprise tools on campus. So if I go to tools right here, you can see I have access to my content collection. I can go to enterprise surveys. I have quick access to my Kaltura media library resources, Orange Success, if you're tied into Orange Success to be able to check on students, and then your course feedback information too.
Jason, we have a question in the chat. Sorry.
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but
no.
I do have a question about how we access the grades. So, like, is there a way for us to look at our grade, like our Turnitin grades that have already been compiled for us? Because I always end up doing it by hand, and I always think this is not the right way to do it, but I never look into. You know what I mean?
So you have a Turnitin assignment and you want to be able to check the grades?
I have all my assignments are through Turnitin because I teach English, so I like they turn in papers
Right.
and so that I have all the Turnitin assignments, but they don't show up in the I can never find where to find the overall grade from all the assignments, not just from each individual assignment, but like at the end of the semester, where do I go to find like a kind of a number
Overview of those.
Yeah,
That's a great question. I'm I'm definitely going to address that. Turnitin
Okay.
is a weird beast because it is one of our LTIs that is integrated into Blackboard.
Yeah.
But I will show you how to utilize the Grade Center and how to check your Turnitin and assignments and tests and everything like that. So I will definitely answer that question.
Okay, sorry.
And I will get to that very quickly, actually. So that's a great question. So here is where
Thank you.
students see their overall. And then I'm going to show you in the Grade Center how you can check both of those and be able to access them both. So that is a great question. And I wasn't sure if anybody wanted to address Turnitin because Turnitin is the bane of my existence, but it is a fun resource to use within the classes. So let me jump into that too. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways to access different parts of your notifications in Blackboard itself. A lot of ways you can navigate around and be able to find what you're looking for. The one you're probably most intrigued by is courses. This is where you're going to spend a lot of your time, is accessing your courses within Blackboard itself. So if I click on courses, you will see your most recent courses under current courses. In a couple of weeks, if you're teaching any courses in the fall, in the summer, not the fall, in the summer, in a couple of weeks, when you click on upcoming courses, what you will see is your summer courses populated here. If you're teaching any fall courses, you're not going to see your fall courses appear until 7 weeks before the start of the semester. Once we get closer to the semester, and usually it's like the week before the semester starts, all the courses that are in your upcoming courses feed to your current courses. So we move the buckets over, and then all of a sudden you'll see a spring 22 one, although we kind of jumped ahead a little bit and created it so people could see it. But the spring 22 one is one that we will move all these current courses to this summer. So everything kind of gets shifted down the line. Your current courses become the courses you're going to be teaching or teaching presently, and then you can go and search for previous courses. Students will just see a list of courses that they've been a part of, and then they get moved down the line also later on, which is kind of cool. You can come in here to your courses and view them in two ways. You can look at them as a list or an icon view. Right now, I have the courses that I'm teaching favorited, and they pop up at the top. Any other courses that I'm a part of or that I'm kind of keeping open for future use, or in my case, I have sandboxes here where I can actually do some training and, play around with one of the course shells. I have those sitting down here as assorted courses. If there's courses I don't want to see that just show up, I can make them hidden courses, and I can hide those for me. These are all courses that are open right now that I really don't need to access quickly. So I just hide them. And if I need to come to them later, I can come into my hidden courses and go back and check those out. That's kind of the neat feature of being an instructor in this. If I go to all courses, it brings me back to the main courses that I deal with in a lot of cases. So at any time, I can go up here to the upper right-hand corner and edit this course. I can make the course private, or I can hide it right here by clicking on these three dots. And the list icon, those three dots are off to the right. I click on that and I can hide the course. And when I hide the course, like I said, it's going to show up down here and hidden for me. I can navigate from semester to semester and look from previous courses and go into the fall courses and find my fall courses. Even with this realm, I can favorite courses in here and pop those up to the top. These are the ones I actually taught and I was the instructor of last semester. So I keep those up at the top. So when I go from semester to semester, I can check and see what I have going on. So it's a different kind of navigation. You don't have that big module sitting in the middle of your page like the previous navigation had, and then you had like multiple courses laid out. I always felt bad for professors who have been teaching here since we got into Blackboard in 2001. Their main module page was like, you just scrolled forever to find a course in there. And if you didn't organize it and put it into My Courses Plus, you can never find what you're looking at. One of the shortcomings of this is, when you go into search your courses, you can't search across semesters. You have to go find the specific semester to find the course you're looking for. That is a shortcoming. We've had conversations with Blackboard about doing an overall search up top and seeing if it's capable for professors to do that. Hopefully with the update they do this summer, that might be an option that pops up. But that's the overall Ultra navigation and how you can actually jump around. You can, like I said, you have to drop down here to go find previous semester courses. And then you can also navigate left to right up here and go to previous semesters here and do a quick search for classes as you search through. Again, This favorites tool, hitting the star and putting your favorite courses up top helps organize things a little bit. It's not perfect, but it works pretty well. Now what I'm going to do, if there isn't any questions, I don't see any questions in the chat, or if anybody has any questions about the navigation, I'm going to jump right into the course.
I got one, Jason. Okay, this is awesome. So I'm okay with the new setup, and the other professor is okay, a little bit okay, but they prefer that old one. Every interface, when I change it on my computer, it does not change it on hers, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and as a TA, I'm both in courses as a student and instructor. If an instructor last semester never kind of closed the Blackboard course,
it's going to show up in here. So if you
I had trouble on the old function hiding that course, but now maybe it will be able to be hidden.
Yes, and I will show you how to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the biggest issues a lot of people have is they see a lot of previous courses that professors will have to open, and they show up in here as part of the current courses. There is a way to kind of change the way that's laid out. If the professor goes in and changes the course to the specific semester that that course was supposed to show up, I can share the dates with you too, and they should be in there by default where it closes and makes it unavailable. A lot of professors like to leave the courses open so students can access their course later. If you want to be able to do that, I'll show you a feature that you can request. If there's specific students you want to have access to a course beyond the close date, you can request for us to give them access beyond the close date. So we can go in and change the date and availability for specific students. So I'll take a look at that for you too. But once you jump into a course, I'm going to show you. So here's my course right here. I'm going to go to Blackboard and Me. And you start with a basic course template that looks like this right here. This basic course template has some really cool features to it. In the upper left, we have a menu where we can actually navigate all of our content areas. And we have announcements, which is our main area that we come into, our information, which is technically a content area. We have a default content, discussion boards, assignments, which again is a content area. We have the groups tool where we can assign groups. And then the course tools. The course tools are where you can actually use Turnitin. You can integrate Turning Point. There's a whole bunch of resources for books for people that have third-party books. And then of course our Zoom meetings. But I'm going to show you a cool feature to help kind of alleviate having to go into tools to utilize a lot of this. One of the things that I like to do using the course tools is to be able to manipulate this and change this and make it look the way I want it to. And I'll come back to that shortly. Course management is where you can actually manage the course itself. You have your content collection, which each course has its own shell of content collection for that course. One of the things we find is a lot of people will course copy from the semester to semester to semester and carry over all their previous information from the semester to semester. And that's where you get like a course quota reached. Each course has like a 1 gigabyte space. If you start copying from semester to semester and don't delete like your old syllabus out of the course content or delete old information you don't utilize anymore out of this content collection, it gets carried over and makes your course bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not a bad thing. It happens. We recommend after a couple of semesters, just going in and doing a little content cleanup in here. Not a lot of people have to worry about that, but it's just something worth pointing out. If you go down a little bit farther is your course tool specific to this course. One of the things a lot of people like to use is the attendance feature where you can actually take attendance right in Blackboard itself. I don't have any students in here, but if I were to add attendance, I could say, set my points here. I could set, points for present, late, absent, excused. I can add this to my grade center as an input for grades, and I can change what type of view they see these points for, and I click save. What this will do is give me like an attendance column, and I can go through each class and mark if students are present, late, or absent, or excused for that class, so I can keep record right in Blackboard. It's a neat feature. You can actually utilize this attendance on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra too, but that's a different demonstration for a different day. Maybe I'll come back and show some Collaborate and Zoom tools and functions. There's a lot of cool things in here that is integrated. One of them that I'm going to jump into in a little bit is test surveys and pools. We're going to keep going down a little bit farther. We have evaluation tools. You can look at performance dashboard, reports. You can check retention center. There's a very deep rabbit holes you can go down with each one of these of checking on information with the students. Now, it's not going to give you like seconds and minutes where students are interacting with the course, but it does give you a pretty good overview of students' interactions. We have the grade center, which is a great function, which we're going to come back to and address some of the turn-in questions that I just got, along with some of the things that I'm going to show you momentarily. The most important one that a lot of people need to check out is going into customization and then going into teaching style. Previously, you used to be able to come in here and be able to change the colors of the course, but Blackboard realized with changing the styles and the templates of the course, you also changed the accessibility of the course. So there was a lot of screen readers that weren't able to read a lot of the information because of the colors that you use, the contrast that you had with the templates. The images in the background became confusing for a lot of the screen readers and accessibility checkers. So Blackboard pulled those functions out. And when I give you the sneak preview of the new course layout, it's going to be even more streamlined than this design. But one of the things I like to showcase by coming to the teaching style is you can change your entry point of where students come into your course. So as you start building your course out, if you don't use announcements, you don't have to have students come into the announcements area. You can have them come into a specific content area that has content in it. You can have them come into groups. You can have them come in right into the web conferencing tool, whatever it is you want them to have them come into, you can change your entry point for your course. You can also change how students see information. You can just have icons or just text or icons with the content area itself. And then this is the fun part. You can actually add a banner to your class. So you can put an image across the top and have a banner. So when students come into your class, you have a personalized banner for that class itself. What that actually looks like for my classes, this is the banner right here. You can actually change it out in the Ultra navigation. So you can actually change your course image or your banner here. So when students come into my class, I have them coming into my syllabus and schedule area, and they see the banner across the top. It's a great way to personalize your class and add your own flair to the class itself. Back in the main page, when you go to the edit course image, it says the image just needs to be 1200 by 240 pixels. You can upload it and give it an image description and make it accessible for screen readers to read, which is really cool. But I digress. Going back to the course, again, I found that there, and then going into teaching styles, I could change, again, my entry point and my banner here. The thing that Sarah was just asking about was changing the availability of the course. If I go into my customization properties, I can actually set my course duration here. A lot of professors before used to set it by default to continuous, but if you leave it on selected dates, that will put it into the proper buckets in the Ultra navigation. So it will show up in the fall 2021 or last spring 2021, depending on the dates that you put in. If you put in the date for, so this is for the spring course of 2022. Usually if you put it in for January 2022 until June of 2022, it will stay in the spring bucket. If you put it in for August of 2022 to December of 2022, that will put it in the fall 22 bucket. So you can adjust your classes accordingly that way, if you want to go in and individually change what the duration is. The rest of the stuff down here is just jargon for where this course is tied to. Most departments don't allow you to change the course name. You can go in and try and change it, but it's probably going to change it back. The students won't see this course name change. They'll see the default name that is part of the registrar space. But some people can come in and change it, depending on the department, depending on the setup for what your course is categorized for. And these are things you won't be able to change. This is something as an admin, we can change for you. But that's the basic layout of the course and what all the behind the scenes stuff looks like. Janet, you got a question?
Yes. You know, in the summer, let's say I will ask to have the fall Blackboard information copied over to this following fall. So what's the difference between, and all the attachments and everything copied over. So what's the difference between doing that and just going in and changing the dates of availability on my old fall Blackboard setup? You're saying that will put it into the new fall bucket and everything will be there. And then I just have to do what I always do, which is go through and change all the dates and things. What's the difference?
So that's a great question. And actually we do get that a lot. Why don't I just, change when this availability is? So we have a data feed that comes from PeopleSoft where people register for the classes.
Mhm.
Your classes are created off of that PeopleSoft enrollment. So even if you move that class to the fall, that enrollment from the PeopleSoft won't tie to that new class. So every semester, PeopleSoft creates a list of new classes for the semester, and it is tied to that enrollment. So if there's no enrollment or no teacher tied to a class, Blackboard does not pick up that class shell, and it doesn't create a place for that information to be stored. So everything is driven off of people signing up for the classes, and that feeds in the Blackboard. It would be really cool if all we had to do was like detach the roster from PeopleSoft and repoint it to that shell. That would save a lot of time and effort, but then those previous students wouldn't have access to information if you want to do that. So it's a lot of it is also record keeping and being able to archive information. So if a student has a question about a grade, and we've had this 4 years ago, they had a question about a grade and they want a contestant, we have everything archived right in Blackboard for that student and for the faculty to go back, and everything is time stamped and everything like that.
Yeah, duh, I should have figured that out. Okay, yep, you're right. Thank you.
No, you're not the first one to ask, and you won't be the last. So I completely appreciate it. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
And then the other question I had is, I'm not sure if this is a teaching style question, but is there a way to not have Word documents download right away? So the question behind that one is, by default with all browsers, and especially in Blackboard, when you put a Word document up, the browsers don't recognize, unless you're using Edge, which becomes an even bigger issue. The browser does not recognize that as a text file that is readable within the browsers. So what we usually recommend is, and I'm going to talk about this more in a second, converting your Word document to a PDF. So when they click on the PDF in Blackboard in whatever browser they're using, it will actually open up as a new tab. And I can demonstrate that momentarily. So yeah, if you don't want them to download the Word document, we always recommend converting that to a PDF and then uploading it. So they have the option of downloading it if you want them to, or they can just open that document right in the browser itself. The browsers do recognize PDFs as part of an HTML code to be able to open it up. I know I'm not explaining that properly. I'm sure somebody will make fun of me later for that, but just know PDFs will open up in the browser. Microsoft Word has to download to be able to be opened and viewed. Same with PowerPoints and stuff like that. A lot of people have found if they convert their PowerPoints to a PDF, students don't have to download the PDF, the PowerPoint to be able to view it. They can just have it open as a PDF in the browser itself, which is kind of cool. Speaking of content, that is a great segue into the next part of how do I actually get content into my class and start organizing things. In the upper left-hand corner is our browser area where we can actually do some organization, do some really cool things to be able to organize content for students to see. This plus button up here helps me add some different areas in here that allow me to add content to my course. One of the things I like to do right when I start building a course is I add a content area. And as you saw in my other course, I add my syllabus area and make sure I write syllabus properly. I make this available to users and I click submit. The Blackboard has a tendency of dropping everything to the bottom. I can go over here and left click and drag this up. And now I can rearrange where I put my content information in here. I could take my information and drop this down. I could pull this up. I could take my assignments, move this up with next to content. And I can rearrange these buttons at any time. There's also this button up here where I can actually go in here and click on stuff and rearrange it this way and move my content up, and I hit submit and it will update it here. So there's always multiple ways of doing things within Blackboard, which is kind of a neat way of looking at it. And depending on the browser, it might let you do it one way or another. I can refresh this and update, and it looks pretty good. There we go. Just wanted to kick the tires a little bit. And if I want to go here, I can go back move my information back up. Now, these are all content areas, and presently there is nothing in those content areas. So I'm going to go in and add something to them so that we can check them out. But before I do that, there's one thing I really like to show people. There's two ways of doing this. I can hit this plus button up here, and I can also create what's called a course link, a web link, or a tool link. So if there's a website I want them to go to, I can create a direct web link right from this button, from this menu over here. But what a lot of people like to do is use a tool link, and they create their web conferencing room. So I create my online classroom. And under the type, I can go down here and I can make this a direct link to my Zoom meeting, or I can make it, if I use Collaborate, a direct link to my Blackboard Collaborate Ultra meeting room. So I can use either one of these, my Blackboard Collaborate Ultra or my Zoom meeting. By default, I'm going to use Zoom meeting. I make it available to users. I click submit. Now, when they come into class, all they have to do is click on the online classroom, and it brings them into my Zoom meeting links, and they'll see all my classes here when I make that populated. What's really nice is up across the top, I have what we call a breadcrumb trail, very much like the fairy tales where I leave a trail of where I've come from. I can go back to Blackboard of Me, and brings me back to my main page. So there's some cool resources over here that you can play around with and add information to and make this very engaging in that sense. Now what I want to do is I want to add my syllabus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I click on syllabus, and I'm going to see I am now in what's called the content area. This is where I can actually start building some content out for students to be able to view, download, interact with, all that fun stuff. So to be able to add information here, I can go up to build content. And one of my favorite ones to use, and I use maybe 4 functions on here when building a class at the get-go. Item is going to be your best friend. Item is where you can actually add information. You can upload documents. You can type in the text box. There's a lot of great things you can do with the item. So generically, I'm going to come in, go build content, item. And here's my content information for my item. And I'm going to put my syllabus in here. Again, having trouble typing today. There we go, syllabus. I could change the color of what this is going to appear as. I can use the old Syracuse University color, D44500. That gives me that old Syracuse University orange before we changed it and made it a little bit lighter. I can go in here to the text and add a bunch of information for the text editor. Now, this is a brand new feature that recently was just added. In the upper right-hand corner, I have an accessibility score. It will tell me how accessible this text is for people to view. So this is kind of cool. It will tell me, is what I'm writing readable by a text editor or a screen reader, and how visibly accessible this is. So if I add a bunch of different colors in there, it will say the contrast is off, or it will say that you need to find like one font. You have too many fonts going on. So it is kind of cool to be able to have that as a metric over here to help you be able to write. In your text editor itself, it's kind of updated in the past year of being able to do some really cool things and have a lot more features with the editor itself. And here I can say, please read and memorize this. There will be a quiz. No, I'm just going to have them please read and memorize the syllabus. I can actually add an image in here. So if I wanted to, I can come in here, insert a local file, and I can add an image into this text editor if I want to, or any documents I want to add. I can insert content. I can insert cloud services, a link to one of my drives if I want to. Some very cool things and features in here. Just scratching the surface. I'm not going to go too deep of a dive into it. But what a lot of people ask, and the question I had about using Word documents, let me show you what I do from my class. I go in here and I go to browse local files. I'm going to go to my desktop, and for my class that I teach, I'm going to go into my syllabus here. I have a folder for my syllabuses. I create a syllabus folder that is a Word document, and I create a syllabus folder that is a PDF. So I have a PDF version of my document and a Word document that I upload for students. So I'm going to grab both of these. And I think I have the same days. Here we go. There's my same days. And I click open, and it will upload the document in the PDF. I can rename those links. So one of them, I can say this is a Word document, and one of them I could say this is a PDF. I can down here utilize my standard options. And I can say, no, I don't want students to be able to see this yet, or yes, I want them to be able to see it. And then I can track how many students click on this document, which is kind of cool, which goes back to the analytics that I showed you over here under the course tools. And then I can also make this document available at a specific time. So I could set this up where, yeah, I want students to see it, but I do not want them to see it until the first day of class, which isn't until Monday at noon. So I can come in here and say Monday at noon, the syllabus will be available to them. Now, little programming information for you. If I set this to no, and I don't want them to see it until Monday, Blackboard sees this part first and says, no, I don't want the students to see this, and it will never move on to this display after. It's kind of like what's called an if then statement. If this is no, then I'm not going to do anything. If this is yes, I'm going to check and see, yes, when do I want to make this available to students? A lot of people get tripped up on this permit users to view. If you're going to have this show up later, you could set this by default to yes. And what Blackboard will do is automatically Monday at noon, this document's going to show up for students to see, which is pretty cool. So you can populate your whole semester and make things show up at specific times as the semester goes on by simply using these standard options down here. And I'll show you what I mean with that momentarily. So this is a cool feature, allows me to show it Monday at noon, but it's my syllabus. I want them to have access to it immediately. So I'm going to click submit. And as you can see, it creates a link to my documents here so students can see them. And then it will say, please read and memorize. Now, if I click on the Word document, as you can see, this is automatically going to download it to my desktop. I already got enough copies of that. I don't need to do that right now. But if I do a PDF and I click on that, it's going to open up the PDF in my browser and allow me to be able to view it and go through and see the document here, which is pretty cool. So your choice of which one you want to do. For me, if students want to have a copy of this, they can open up this and then they can also download it as a PDF. But I also don't have a problem because I lock my Word documents in here of them downloading the Word document and keeping the Word document. Some students prefer one over the other. I have some students that are very angry about PDFs. They have a serious anger issue with PDFs, and I don't blame them. Not a lot of people like Adobe products, but I do, so I give them that option. But I digress. So always giving options, giving them the ability to do that. And you're going to see in a moment, there's something really cool that's going to pop up with this information, and I'm going to come back to that. So here's my syllabus. Now I want to start building out some content in the class itself. So if I go to content, I now have a content area, and I can come up here once I click on content. If I don't want just content, I can go up here and edit and change this to weekly content. I could put a disclaimer on what the content folder information is if I want to, but I'm going to keep this simple and I'm going to click submit. Now what I can do is I'm going to start building some weekly content. And here's the second thing I like to do. Usually you can just use an item and build out your weekly content, put all your documents in the item. That works really well. Design-wise, what I like to do is I create what's called a content folder. So here's the second thing of the four things I like to use a lot of. I go to build content, content folder. And what this does is very much like you organize your desktop on your computer. I'm putting a content folder in here, just like I do on my desktop on my computer, to put information for that week. For this one, I'm going to call this week 1. I can give it a name of what we're going to cover that week, intro to course. I can do a precursor this week and talk about the objectives that I want to cover for the week. And then I can do assignments, what assignments they have. And all of this will show up on the outside of this folder. Again, I could do standard options. I'm going to make it available for the first week. Well, my first week isn't until Monday, so I could set this to Monday the 28th. And I'm going to have this show up at the beginning of the day at midnight. And I'm going to leave it open for the rest of the semester. So I want users to see it, but I don't want them to see it until Monday when they wake up. I click submit. There's my folder. It's going to say the availability is hidden from students, and it will show up Monday early in the morning. So right as midnight hits Monday, this folder will be available for students to see. I'll have my information in there for their content, and then any assignments that they have to do. Now, if they want to see what that information is and where to submit that assignment, they click on the folder, and now I can build out all that week's information. So I can come in here, go build content item, reading for this week, reading 1 or readings. Let's just do readings. Please read these. This. All right, let's work on my typing today. Please read these, and now I can attach all my documents that I want them to read for class. Again, you can make them Word documents or PDFs. PDFs will open up right in the browser for them, makes it easier for them to see. Again, down here, standard options. Now, I can make this available prior to Monday, but the folder won't be available to Monday. So once that folder opens up, that opens up all the information inside. If I want to change this so they can't have access till later in the week, I can come in here and say, well, I don't want them to do the readings before class, so I'm not going to make it available until Monday after class. So these readings won't be available until class is noon to 1. I'm going to make the readings available after class at 2 o'clock. Now you're going to get very pinpointed, and you're going to have like a lot of steps and things kind of showing up along the way, but it's kind of a neat way to have everything automate and happen automatically. For me, I want them as soon as the class is available to be able to go in and access those readings. So there's my links to the readings. You'll see all the readings attached underneath there if I attach any readings. The next thing I do a lot of is I share a lot of videos within class. And to do that, I can go to build content, Kaltura Media. If you haven't used your Kaltura Media yet, this is your repository here at Syracuse University. It is our version of YouTube where you can share your videos and be able to upload and share just like you would YouTube, but it's only for Syracuse University, meaning nobody can see it out publicly. There's no repository where we can just search your videos on Kaltura Media unless you make it public. If you upload the videos through the class, those videos are locked in for your library and where you share those too. Again, this is another tutorial I can do on a different day and go really deep into what you can do with Kaltura Media, but I'm going to show you real quick. If I go to build content, Kaltura Media, this will open up an outside link and I can bring in my Kaltura Media. So this opens up my library of videos for me to be able to pull in a video. As you can see here, here's my video library. I can actually go up to the top here. I can click add new, and I can add a new media if I have a video to add load. I can actually do an express capture, and I can record using the camera on my device and record like a weekly update for the class. I can bring in YouTube videos through Kaltura, or I can do a lecture through here. What's really nice is if you record your class in Zoom, all your Zoom class recordings populate to your Kaltura Media library, and you could take your Zoom recordings and link them in right through Kaltura too. Your Zoom recordings get deleted after 90 days. In Kaltura, you have 4 years where those recordings will stay there as long as you're using them. So up to 4 years, they are stored in Kaltura Media, if not longer if you're using that video a lot. For me, I already have the video I want. I'm going to embed that. It's going to give me an option of what I want to do. I want them to watch this tutorial. I have it open for them. I can give information if I want to, but I click submit, and now my video is in there. So when students come into the class, they'll be able to push play and see the tutorial that I have that I want them to watch. It will have transcripts to it. It will have the ability, if you want them to save this, they can actually view it, watch it, listen to it. They can make it bigger if they want to, and be able to work with the video from here. All very cool stuff. Now I can build out my weekly folders here. The last thing I want to show you is in the build content, you could also do web links where you can link out to websites. You can upload images. You can even upload audio files, but I highly recommend using Kaltura for anything media related, whether it's just an audio file or a video file, and linking it in that way. The last thing I like to show in here, you can also do course links to other areas in the course. So if you have a discussion board, which I'm not going to have time to talk about today, but if you have a discussion board or if you have an assignment you want to link out to, which I am going to talk about, you can do a course link to that assignment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that momentarily after I show you assignments. So I'm going to click over to assignments. So I have my content set for the week. Now I want them to actually do something for homework. So there's two things you can do. You can do an assignment right here in the content area, or what a lot of people like to do is they have an assignments area where students can easily access that information, and they go to assessments and create an assignment. This assignment creates a Dropbox where students can submit work to you for you to be able to have organized and view. So going back to the question earlier about turning in, I'm going to address that very quickly. This is a Dropbox where students can submit information to you. So if you want them to do a paper, if you want them to submit a video to you, if you want them to submit images to you or anything, you can have them submit right here for them, for you, for homework. And it keeps it all populated and in Blackboard for you to view. And you can also grade them on it. And that's where this is a really cool feature. And I love this feature, this in test. I love this feature. So I can say, you know, week 1 paper. I can say, please write and give directions as to what I want them to do. Or if you already have a Word document with the directions of what you want them to do, or if you have a rubric of what you want them to do with, you know, what the point scale is going to be, you can either copy and paste the text in here, or you can attach that Word or PDF document right to the assignment file so students can download it and see exactly what the assignment is. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you already have a Word document with step-by-step instructions, you can copy and paste it in here, or you could just attach that document here. You can tie a due date to it. So I want this due next Monday. So I'm going to go ahead to the following Monday, the 4th, before class. I want this due before class at noon. So I go up here and go to noon. And what's really cool about this is if I apply a due date to it, back in the course itself, it's actually going to, back in the Ultra navigation in that calendar, it's going to show that due date of next Monday at noon. So it's going to show students and remind them when they look at the calendar, I have a paper due for week 1 paper. It's due Monday at noon, and it gives it that overview. It will also send them a notification in that notification list. You have a paper due Monday at noon. So a lot of cool communication happens when you actually assign a due date to it. Points possible, I can assign a point value to it. You can make it 0 to 100 to 1,000, whatever you want to. I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but you can actually add a rubric to it, or you can build a rubric in the assignment and assign points to it. It's a pretty cool feature. So all you have to do when you grade it is go through the rubric and pick the points, and it will compile it up for you. Under submission details, you can have students individually submit. You can assign groups and have the group submit it. So if one person from the group submits and you grade it, it will populate the grade for everybody in that group. That's a really neat feature. Again, that's another day where I could spend a half an hour just showing you that feature. Portfolio submission is pretty cool. That allows you to submit multiple pieces together. There's a lot to that. That's a new feature. And then what I like to do for my students is, I know students are going to mess up with the first submission, or they're going to go back and proofread it, which I hope they do. I always allow multiple attempts, but if you want to, you can lock it in a single attempt. You can do multiple attempts and say, hey, you get 2 or 3 shots to get this right. And all I'm going to see is the last attempt that you gave me. So whatever one is the last one you submitted to me, that's the one I'm going to grade it for you. So that's kind of a neat feature too. Grading options. You can go in here and you can enable anonymous grading where you won't see the student's name across the top. The law school loves using this one. Enable delegated grading. If you have a lot of TAs, you can actually have specific TAs grade specific students' papers. So if you have like multiple sections in the main course, you can assign multiple people to grade multiple different papers. And then of course, display of grade. Do you want it to show up as a grade, text, percentage, complete, incomplete, or the SU letter grade, which is our official SU grading schema. And then does it get included in the grade center, so on and so forth. And of course, availability, always about the availability. When is this assignment going to show up for them to be able to submit? And do I hide it after the due date? You can't have it display and the display hide before the due date. That's not fair to students. Blackboard will get upset and say, hey, you can't hide this before it's, the final due date. So you have to be wary of that too. Once I have that set, I click submit, and this creates an assignment for me. The question that just popped up, is there a way to have an assignment visible but not able to submit before or after the deadline? So what's going to happen is if a student submits late, it will actually show up in the grade center that they submitted late, and do you want to actually count that grade? So it gives you some options. There's no easy way of hiding it after the due date without actually hiding the assignment, but Blackboard does timestamp everything and send a receipt to the students. So if a student ever, this one comes up a lot, if a student ever says, I submitted that, ask them for the receipt. They should have a receipt in their email that shows they submitted properly. Remind students before the assignment comes in that once they submit, to save the receipt from Blackboard as proof that they actually submitted properly. If they don't immediately, within 2 seconds, see a receipt from Blackboard saying that they properly submitted, have them submit again. If they're having issues, that's when they can reach out to you or to us, and we'll help them fix the submission itself. Hopefully that answered the question. I'm going to show you in the Grade Center very momentarily what that's going to look like. Is there a benefit difference to doing enabled delegated grading versus each TA creating a group within the Blackboard page and grading those that are in the group they created, which are the recitation sections? Takes a little bit more setting up to do the groups and then doing the smart views where they can do that. But if you're interested in doing that, I can definitely show you how to do it. Both of them, I mean, it depends on how you want to establish you do it. If you have multiple assignments and you have a recitation set up that way, the better and the easier way is to set up a group, set up a smart view, and have those TAs handle the smart view. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's perfectly fine. I can meet with you to help you set those up if you're interested. If you only have 1 or 2 assignments, it's a lot less work just to say, I want this TA to grade these numbers and this TA to grade these numbers. Then going through setting up the group, setting up the smart views, setting up the recitations in the Grade Center. There's a lot behind that too. So it all depends on what type of workflow you want to have to it. Like I said at the beginning, Blackboard has multiple ways and multiple schemas of how workflows of how it can handle different things. Before I jump into showing you the Grade Center, the last thing I want to show you is the ability to add tests to your Blackboard. Tests are a great function. You can actually create a multiple choice test right in Blackboard, and Blackboard will grade it for you and populate that right into the Grade Center itself. Again, this is another hour-long presentation that we do as part of our training of how to build tests, how to deploy them, how to create pools, test pools, how to create randomized test pools. We had a professor who created a test and was able to set up the test with a test pool with the number of questions that they had and randomize it. And he did the math behind it and found that for every 1 test he deploys, there is a 1 in 5.2 million chance that the students sitting next to you will see the same exact test at the same exact time. That's insane. So if you're interested in deploying some tests and want to see how to utilize tests within Blackboard, I would love to meet with you and show you how to kind of do some of these things one-on-one. So there's great functionality behind that. The other thing that we did have the question in is Turnitin has changed. So there is the ability to use assignments, but Turnitin has changed their ability to change where the link is to be able to build out your Turnitin. Your Turnitin assignment, your LTI is here under build content. When you go to build content, turn it in, this is very similar to assignment, a little bit of a different setup. You can come here and set up your assignment in here. I'm going to do a test assignment. I'm going to attach a grade to it and submit. And this will look a little bit different. To access a turn, oh, I spelled assignment wrong. I can go in and edit that. To access and grade Turnitin assignments, you're not actually going to go to the Grade Center. You have to go to Turnitin itself. When I click on this, I will see, now that I've created that link, I will see my roster populate in here, and I will see all submissions that my students have given me in here itself. That's a little bit different than assignments. Whereas if I go down here to my Grade Center and go to full Grade Center, I'm going to see my week 1 paper populated over here. This full Grade Center is where I'm going to see all my grades populated in here, and you're going to see your total points and your weighted total in here too. So this grade center functionality is like an Excel spreadsheet on speed. There are so many things that are going to be able to feed into this and be able to utilize it for. And any assignment or any turn in an assignment or any test you create, it will automatically create a column in here for you to view. Point in case, I'm going to go back to my main class here. So I'm going to actually go back to Blackboard. Let me, because I was using Kaltura, this is a neat feature. If I go back to Blackboard and go to one of my other courses and go to, let me go to my XR research. We don't actually have any assignments in here. This was a research class I was teaching. You can see the student populated and you can see the columns that are populated in here. This will allow me to see my students' total grades and the columns that are associated with it. I can actually go in here and manually enter grades, but if this is tied to an assignment, you'll see a yellow asterisk show up here with the assignment tied to that. So there's some cool functionality to it. And actually, let me see if I can pull up a better example for you. If I go into my grade center for this course, I don't think there's any sensitive information in there. There we go. I have Joe student. I could see a test assignment. I can go in here and view the grade details. I could see when they submitted, how many points they got, and I can actually see the submission itself, which is kind of cool. If a student submits something, let me see if it shows up in here. You'll see a yellow asterisk pop up that they actually submitted something in there. I can also go and look at all my grades that I have as part of the grade center by going to manage, column organization, and being able to see all the different grades I've assigned for this class. And I can even organize them to make my life a little bit easier. So I can put all my tests and quizzes together. I can put all my lecture videos together. My assignments I can group together. And then when I hit submit, that will organize my spreadsheet, my grade center a little bit more too. Again, this is another thing I could spend hours and hours and hours on talking about. So by all means, if you have questions or want to focus on something with the grade center or have questions, definitely reach out to us. And we'd love to meet with you one-on-one to go over some of this stuff. The question I had in the chat, is there a way to post an assignment so they can see it before groups are created and they convert it to a group assignment? As long as nobody submits to it prior to you assigning groups to it, yes, you can do that. You can post an assignment, make sure that nobody submits to it until you assign the groups, and then you can go in and assign those groups to it so that only one person from that group has to submit for them. The second somebody submits to that assignment and you don't have the groups assigned to it, that breaks that ability to assign it as a group assignment. I hope that makes sense. So Blackboard does what you want it to do until it doesn't, pretty much. So once a student submits to it, it locks it in. This is all of a sudden an individual submission and everybody individually has to submit. What you could do is you can just delete the assignment and recreate it and, assign the groups to it and tell that student to please resubmit. But again, that, the quicker you get those groups created and put in there prior to them submitting, the better off it is. But again, yeah, you could create an assignment and then later on add the groups once you put the groups in there as part of it. So if you want to build out your course ahead of time and you don't have your groups ready to go to put into it, you can do that. Yes, definitely. I hope that helps too. Cool. As you can see, there's a lot of different ways to organize your course. This is like a test course where I go in here and do all my testing and being able to build out. If you want a sandbox, you can email us at help@syr.edu and request a sandbox for you to experiment and play with and build out courses. We're more than happy to set up a site for you to do something similar to what I'm doing here. So if you want to build out your courses for the fall right now, we can build the sandbox out for you and you can actually get in there, test, build, play, and do some cool things. And once your fall actual course is populated from PeopleSoft, all you have to do is a course copy from one course to the next and everything gets pushed over. So that covers at light speed a whole bunch of information and a whole bunch of things that you can add to your course to get up and running. The Grade Center is a great feature to be able to manage and control how your grades come in and out. You can create manual columns. So if you don't create an assignment in the class for them to submit to, maybe you want to do create a column for participation in class. You can come in to your Grade Center, create a column, say participation. week 1. I can give that a grade of 100 points. And then there's no due date to it, or you could put a due date in and you need to participate in class this week. I click submit. And what that does is creates a participation week 1 grade for me to manually put grades into. Students don't have to submit anything to me. I just can manually come in here just like Excel spreadsheet, and I can manually enter in grades for them. And it populates as part of their overall total for the grade. If you have like grading percentages, you can use the weighting total where participation is worth 20%. Homework is worth 10%. You can come in here to the weighted total and you can actually set this up. If I go into edit column information, you can set up your weighted percentages using columns or categories. Again, love to meet with you to help set this up. This is more of a personalized thing. I could show you it, but everybody has a different schema or a different setup for their percentages. But I can come in and say, you know, my week 1 paper, that alone, your week 1 paper is worth 10% of your grade. There's 10%. Your participation is for week 1 is only worth 5%. But all of your discussions that you have, if I click on discussions, move that over, all your discussions are worth 75% of your grade or 85%. That should get us up to 100. There's 100% of my grades right there. So that's how you would set up a weighted grading for your students. Me personally, I use the total column. I give points to every assignment I do. And then no matter how many points you get, I divide it by the total points possible. And that's where I come up with a grade. So there's both of those options for you to play with right in the Grade Center. So I know I went light speed. I know I covered a lot in 1 hour time. I did want to leave about 20 minutes for Q&A and then wrap up to show you a preview of what's coming in the fall as an option. So I'm going to open up the floor. If there's, I know that hopefully I addressed a lot of the questions in the chat, but if you have any other questions, I'll open up that now and we'll go from there. If not, I can jump right into the preview. And if you're in Chrome, I highly recommend you download this plugin called Fire, because you need to celebrate all the little things that you do properly in your browser. So anytime I do something good, I fire off a celebration, just like I saw in the Zoom chat. This is a little extension in Chrome called Fire. You hit it and you can celebrate all your good achievements. I like to plug that one. It's just something fun that makes me feel good while I do a presentation. That was great. Thank you. So the question that popped up is, when doing a test, how trustworthy is the part that says how long they spend on individual questions? So depending on how you deploy the test and how the students see those questions, it's pretty accurate, actually. If they click on a question and are reading it, depending on where they went from question to question, if it's a one-page thing, it's kind of hit or miss. But if it is show each question individually, it's pretty precise in all actuality. It will say that they spent like 5 minutes on this question or 4 minutes on that question. It's a pretty accurate metric. I mean, it's not perfect. It's going to give you a roundabout. It's going to round up a little bit, but it does do a very good job. One of the things I will tell you, I'm going to kind of divulge a little bit of some helpful things. When deploying a test, one of the options in the test itself is, I'm going to go in here and create a generic test. I'm going to show you that there's a bunch of questions that you can utilize in a test. All of these questions that you use to build your test, like the file response, the multiple choice, the multiple answer, two different things, matching, all of these will be graded automatically by Blackboard, except for the essay, file response, or short answer. Those ones you have to actually go in and touch yourself and give points to them for the Blackboard to recognize what they should do or compile the completeness of that test. You can upload questions. There's actually on Blackboard Help, the main Blackboard website, there is a file format in Excel where you can upload all your questions. You can't use a Word document. It shows you how to set up like an Excel spreadsheet. If you want to, if you're an Excel guru, you can use Excel to create your tests and then just upload it into Blackboard. But I digress. What I wanted to show you was once I deploy a test, it gives me to do the test options. One of the things we like to do is, you know, open this in a new test, new window, make available for students. You could do multiple attempt if you're doing like a practice test. The one we usually recommend staying away from is forced completion. Now, a lot of people like to use forced completion because it does just that. It forces the students to complete the test in that window. But the problem with forced completion is if I accidentally go up and click out of this window or this tab and accidentally like click on launch Zoom meeting and it kicks me out of that tab, that test was just submitted. Blackboard recognizes you left that tab and it submits your test and it doesn't tell you, it just submits your test. So when the student continues with the test after accidentally clicking out of it, which hopefully it was accidentally clicking out of that tab, Blackboard will submit it automatically. The student will continue on like nothing happened, not knowing that it's submitted. And then at the end, it will get this error, your test has already been submitted. So students usually don't know that. It's not a great functionality. It is not a perfect tool to use. So we usually recommend not putting on the forced completion. If you give them a heads up beforehand that no matter, you know, if that test has forced completion on it, you know, drill into them. The second they click off of that tab, your test is getting submitted. So make sure you stay on that window and, you know, make that known to them that if they click off of it, it's going to submit. That will deter the cheaters. It will deter people from accidentally like, oh, I had a message pop up from my roommate and clicking on the message in the screen, that will submit their test. So if you give them a heads up, it's something you can use, but we usually try to deter people from doing it because it causes more headaches for you than the students. The set timer is a neat feature. You can set a timer and have them complete the test in an amount of time. The auto submit is kind of cool. So at the end of 60 minutes, it will auto submit their test. But again, just like the forced completion, the students don't know that. So if they haven't saved their work along the line, it's going to submit the only thing they've saved. So we usually recommend leaving off the auto submit. And what will happen is in the grade center, when you open up their test to evaluate it, it will say the student submitted this work before 60 minutes. And then these 3 questions he submitted or she submitted after the 60 minutes. Do you want to count those questions? So it gives you that option within the grading grade center itself too. This display after until is different than the timing. This is when the availability of the test is for them to click on it. So if your class is from noon to 1 and you set the display after until from noon to 1, students can open up that test at any time. So if a student comes in at 12:59, 59 seconds and clicks on that test, it's going to open up the test. Then the timer starts for the 60 minutes. So keep that in mind with your test availability. The link will be available for that hour. The second they click and open that test, that's when that 60-minute timer starts. That usually trips a lot of people up. This one's a neat one, the test availability. You can actually add users to the test exceptions. So if you have a student that has extra time needed, so they need time and a half or double time to be able to complete the test and you have a timer set up, you can go into add users and you can add a user and give them 120 minutes instead of 60 minutes. That's really neat, built right into the test. You can submit a due date, include the test results, when they get to see the results of the test. And then in the test presentation itself, you can change how they view the test itself. All at once, one at a time. You can prohibit them from going back to previous questions they answered. Or, like I said earlier, you can randomize all the questions. So no matter the fact that Sean and I are sitting next to each other in the classroom on this test, my question list is going to look different than his. And that deters me from looking over and looking at what do you get for question number 1. His question number 1 is going to be completely different than mine. So that's a neat feature. Once I click submit and I go to my full grade center, I'm going to see there's my test. where I can actually go in and see all the submissions from my students, and it populates automatically to my grade center for me to be able to see the grades and get all the information too. I know that went a lot deeper than just how trustworthy the test was, but hopefully I snuck in some test information for you too. Again, there's a lot more details we can go deeper into. If there's no other questions, you got to see a sneak preview. Oh, one question real quick. If one student is unable to do the test during the regular dates available and is added to the exceptions, does the preceding availability need to include the exception date? So the preceding availability, the availability of the test itself is set for the main students in that class. Those exceptions you can change. So if you have a student that's traveling for sports or traveling in general for a family emergency or just whatever reason they may have, you can change the availability of the test in that test exception for just that student. So your main test class is going to take the test Monday at 1 o'clock. Student X is going to take that test Tuesday at noon. You can make the test available from noon to 1 o'clock for that one student using that test exemption. And if they happen to have time and a half, you can add time and a half to that exception. So you have the ability to change when they take that test and the availability of how long they have to take that test too. So that's kind of a neat feature in there too. Great question. I knew I didn't explain that properly. And I can answer more questions at the end too. So here is our new layout called Blackboard Ultra. What we're on right now for our classes is called Blackboard Learn. This is Blackboard Learn Ultra, our new Ultra classes. If you've come from a previous campus or university that uses Canvas, you're going to probably, I don't know, I will see how you feel about it. It looks very similar to Canvas, but it's kind of its own beast. So if I open up this Ultra course, this is what the new Ultra courses are going to look like starting in the fall. This is going to be an opt-in option for people to be able to organize their courses and their classes itself. This, as you can see immediately right off the get-go, looks completely different than Learn in the way that it's laid out. The way that Ultra classes lay out their classes is your course content is a direct feed when you come into your course. All that stuff that was on the left-hand side that we just organized and made folders for now gets shifted to the middle, and it becomes a feed for your students to come into. So that week 1 folder that I created, it now comes in as a folder here that I can open up. This opens up a drop-down where I can open up that week 1 folder. And here's all my information for that week 1 folder, all laid out, direct line, one right after another in this direct feed. So it takes all that stuff was on the left-hand side and merges it into the middle and makes a direct feed and compacts everything right in there. Off to the left is all of our quick hitter type stuff, where you have your groups, your attendance is right there on the surface for you. You have Blackboard Collaborate, where with a new feature that's going to open up in the fall, you'll be able to switch between Blackboard Collaborate and Zoom because we have Zoom integrated. You have your questions, your test questions are built right in here. You can add a course schedule. So it will actually lay out, we meet every Monday, Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Here's a link to the online link, or here's the room that we're going to meet in. So that's actually a cool feature over here on the left-hand side. You have a course description where you click on that and you can actually have a course description that's going to get populated directly from PeopleSoft's course description. Or you will be able to come in here and update that description for that course. You'll see your name as the instructor up here, and any TAs will show up underneath that, and people will be able to click on this and directly email you from this spot. Opens up communication opportunities. That calendar that was way out on the Ultra navigation and hidden very well into the tools in Blackboard Learn is right here on the surface now. So when you come into the class, you are only going to see the information for this class in this calendar, whereas the Ultra navigation calendar shows you for all of your classes. So now this is laid out here. Your discussions get moved up here. your grade book gets moved up across the top, your messages become more prevalent, and then all your analytics for your class get laid out here, which is kind of cool. You can actually come in here and very quickly run reports for any assignments that you have in your class itself. So this layout is drastically different in some ways. In other ways, I feel it makes it a lot easier to be able to rile through your content and go right through your feed and be able to find information and drill down to what you're looking for a lot easier. You don't have to go to the left menu and then move to the middle of the page and then be able to go to the back to the left menu. Everything is going to happen directly in this feed here. There's your quick, very, very quick introduction to the Ultra classes. So we have Ultra navigation, and now we have the capability to use Ultra classes. We are not pushing this on anybody. This is not going to be a requirement to switch from Learn to Ultra. This is going to be an option that we're going to open up to fall to people that are interested in experimenting with it. And for new faculty or students that come in that are TAing or facilitating a class that came from, and this is the easiest move is, like I said, it looks very similar to Canvas and D2L. If they want to utilize this, they will have that option. It's actually a switch that happens in the background in the class itself. And we'll have a lot more information about this summer for people interested in using it.
Does this update also affect organizations, or is it
Yes.
just for courses?
We'll have that option for organizations also.
Okay.
It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be an option. We're not pushing anybody to it. We're not saying this is what's going to happen. With the Ultra navigation, we had to switch just because it makes accessibility a lot better, and the use of Blackboard was a lot cleaner interface in a lot of ways. So we had to switch over to navigation to be able to have access to be able to utilize this as an option. Blackboard, their goal over the next 4 to 5 years is to completely move to Ultra classes, but they still have a lot of functionality that they need to update to be able to make this fully functional for us to switch over as personal users here at Syracuse. So this is going to be an option for people to be able to utilize, and we're going to slowly work our way there. Hopefully this doesn't scare anybody, but just knowing that there are now options for people is always a good thing too. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms? I'll take criticisms at this point. We might want to stop the record. And you can pop your camera on or just turn on your mic if you want to too. And while people are thinking, there was one thing I made a reference to and that I want to show you real quick. In assignments, I made this assignment here and I have these tests here. And I talked about using course links. So if I want to link to this week 1 paper in my week 1 folder, so I go to week 1 and I told them there's an assignment, I can go to build content, course link. I can go to browse, and I can go over to assignments and I can link them to this assignment I created in this assignment tab. Please submit paper 1 here. This will be available for them to see. I click submit. Now what happens is students will see everything laid out here. And when they get to the week 1 paper, they could click on week 1 paper and it brings them over to this assignment tab for them to be able to submit. Just as if they went to assignments, clicked on paper 1, it brings them to that same area. So that's a cool little feature where you can create all your assignments out here for them to quickly get to, or if they're working through a content week, they can click on that and it gives them the same functionality. I'm more than happy to share the video link. I just had a great question. Is there a way to import a test from a previous class? So yes, one way is doing a course copy. everything should course copy over with the test from a previous course. Or what you could do is if you have one test you want from a previous course and you don't want to do a whole course copy, you can actually go to that previous course. On the left-hand side, go to Course Tools, and you'll find Test Surveys and Pools. If I go into Test, I'll see a list of all my tests. I want exam 1. I can go to exam 1 and I can export this to my local computer. What this will do is download it to my computer. If I have my download set, I could download it there. I download it to my desktop. Now what I can do is go back to that course I want to pull it into, go to that same area for Course Tools. I go to Test Surveys Pools. I go to Tests, and now I can import that test in. So I go to my desktop. There's my test import. Exam 1. I click OK, and there's my exam 1 brought in from my other class. Test Surveys Pools, great function. Again, maybe I'll come back and do a whole presentation on that if you guys would like. But yeah, that's how you grab one test or quiz. The other way is you can do real quick, course copy. You can go down here if you want all of them. You can go down here to your test surveys and pools, copy everything, and then copy that over to the course that you want to copy to. And that brings your whole test surveys and pools over into that new course. Very cool. I'm going to stop sharing. Hopefully I haven't overloaded you with way too much information, but now you have it recorded. So if you want to come back to it later and check it out, again, you can email us anytime with questions at help@syr.edu, help@syr.edu. We have, if you want to play with something and see what it is, like I said, on the main navigation page, we have all those answers pages, which is answers.syr.edu. If there's something you want to try out first before you reach out to us and say, hey, I really want to do something in the Grade Center, or I want to understand the Grade Center more, go to answers.syr.edu, look for Blackboard Grade Center. We have a bunch of tutorials in there. So at midnight on a Thursday night, if you want to play around, you can check that out. But on Friday, after you get done being frustrated, you can email us at help@syr.edu and we can set up an appointment to meet with you or answer any questions you have the best we can. Cool. If there's no other questions, we'll stop the recording. Maybe people don't want to be on the recording for the question. Okay.